The noob plays Edward the Man-Eating Train's Nightmare update, but he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know where the new guns are, how to beat the new Nightmare Edward mode. Basically, he's just clueless. If you're in a similar position to the noob, then this video is for you. Let's get this out of the way first. The Nightmare update introduces the Nightmare mode, which is now the hardest mode in the game. This difficulty setting does not come in regular gameplay, it only comes when you try and summon it right next to the basic shop. Edward is obviously much harder in this mode. Armor has been slightly buffed, and in Nightmare mode he has 4 armor bars, which means that the armor will absorb 40% of all damage. However, it's not that big of a gap compared to the 3 armor bars seen in hard difficulty, which absorbs 35% of total damage. And that is only a slight buff, but everything else is insane. Edward now multitask his attacks. He doesn't switch from machine gun mode to claw mode or to missile mode. He's perfectly fine to do 2 to 3 attacks simultaneously and with higher damage. As well as the 3 main attacks, Edward's missiles now leave a trail of poison that surrounds the rail car, which is dangerous for you to touch. The missiles are now so strong, the entire rail cars will become unusable due to the fact that the entire floor of the rail car has been destroyed, cutting off escape routes for you. So how do you beat this thing? I've beaten Nightmare mode once, and let me tell you, it was not easy. It took a full squad of 8 players, each of us has a minimum 250 journeys, and with a stacked squad, we needed 29 attempts to do it. Yes, 29 attempts. The only possible way to beat Edward at Nightmare mode is through a stacked squad of players that have a general strategy. I firmly believe there is no hope in you beating Nightmare mode with randoms. So what was our strategy? Firstly, use railcars with high defense only. This means military wagons are the only viable option that you have. These railcars stand the best against Edward's missiles, and you need a full team of 8 players, which is the maximum server limit. This is because 8 railcars ensure you the most space that allows you to escape from Edward's attacks. Anything less than that makes this Nightmare mode impossible. And that's the equipment done. So what is the strategy? We divided our team into 2 groups, the survivors and the gunners. The survivors are the people who have light equipment only, and they need to move fast and dodge Edward's attacks. These survivors can't afford to bring any bulky equipment, all they need is 2 light weapons. The setup I used as a survivor was the Druid Brick Model 3 and the SP9 Mini, which I consider the best weapons in this lightweight class category. The gunners are people with more heavy arsenal that are meant to do damage to Edward. Assault rifles, shotguns, and any short range weapons is out of the question as a gunner. The only thing that you can bring is snipers. This is because you will be able to hear missiles approaching you if you're far away from Edward, and you will not be susceptible to Edward's more close range attacks like his claws and machine guns, on top of that his missiles. Stamina is now more important than ever. Never let your stamina reach 0% in any situation. This is because when your stamina reaches 0%, it takes a while to recharge, while if you edge it to about 5%, it recharges faster. And another advice, do not spread around the train. This is the biggest problem that we have faced while playing Nightmare mode. As the round goes on, there are more dead ends. So to reduce this, we have to condense ourselves to a couple of rail cars and only move along when it's absolutely necessary. By ever focusing on a couple of rail cars, this decreases the amount of dead ends that Edward is able to create as time goes on. And yeah, that's basically all I have. So what are my final thoughts about it? I think this was a good addition in the game overall. Edward the Man-Eating Train has gotten stale due to how easy the game becomes after like 150 journeys. There's not much to do other than get titles or something like that. But I felt the implementation of Nightmare mode wasn't done right. I don't think Edward the Man-Eating Train needs a game mode that requires you to have a full stack of players to complete it in order to be fun again. I think it needs a game mode that still is harder than hard mode, but is still achievable when done with randoms. I recommend toning down the difficulty of Nightmare mode in some ways, like for example, stopping Edward from multitasking or reduce the frequency of the missiles. Another criticism that I have is that voting for Nightmare mode is bad, and I would much prefer playing Nightmare mode in the normal map instead of voting for it. What made the game special was because the difficulty was chosen in such a unique way. By voting for Nightmare mode, the developers have essentially undone one of the biggest strengths for the game. I recommend making a new area and throw 1 or 2 Nightmare paths inside of it in the future update. And yeah, that's about it. I'm giving this a B+. So what about everything else? As considering the Game Pass exclusives, there are 4 new guns added into Edward the Man-Eating Train. These 4 guns are the AS-12, which is present in the Abandoned Crate, the Turnbull 45 in Gravestone, the Turnbull 351 in Dead Ridge City, and of course, the Krieger RJL, which is a grenade launcher. Now, what do I think about these guns? I think they're all good, to be honest. The AS-12 is a great weapon that serves as the faster version of the AMU-AS-12, but with heavier weight and a little bit less damage. I think if you have a high level shotgun like the Elephant Stopper or the AMU-AS-12, the AS-12 wouldn't be of much use to you, but if you don't have these high level shotguns, I recommend putting this on. The turbos are both great intermediate weapons, and I firmly believe the Turbo 351 is the best intermediate weapon, outclassing the Rack 10s in that regard. This is due to its insane 50 bullet magazine and armor piercing that gives the weapon more longevity. Seriously, in practice, this thing will shred Edward super easily. The Turbo 45 is still a very respectable gun on its own, but if you want to get the most bang for your buck, I recommend saving up a bit more and getting the Turbo 351. And of course, the Krieger RJL, which is now the best gun in the game. It's an insane grenade launcher that does a stupid amount of damage, but it's the heaviest weapon in the game. Now, I think the grenade launcher isn't a necessary requirement at all. You're able to comfortably beat hard mode without this grenade launcher at all. I think it's a worthy investment if you're trying to beat nightmare mode, where I think the insane damage really shines through. Unlike the updates before it, the nightmare update only has one new game pass added to the game instead of two, which is the Highwayman game pass, sitting at 525 Robux and follows the standard formula of a typical game pass for Edward the Man-Eating Train. You have your legendary player title and an immediate access to a Turbo 45, which is a very respectable gun too. And of course, the game pass exclusive gun is the AIM A79 Cudgel, which is a grenade launcher. This grenade launcher only has one pellet though, and does the same damage as the Krieger RJL. In my opinion, I think the Highwayman is a very reasonable purchase at 525 Robux, making it slightly above the other weapon game passes, which feature a shotgun and an assault rifle. However, if you want a gun that's more versatile than the grenade launcher, I would suggest looking into both of these first before you give the Highwayman game pass a chance. Weapon changes. There's now a whole new segment in Eastern Watchpost which now sells guns from a pilot. The guns featured are the Rack 10 Commando, the MA16, the Condor 50 MS, the VKK Ryova, which has been stripped out of the bridge obstacle course and can no longer be accessed there, and of course the Krieger RJL. You can form a very good loadout using any of these 6 guns as a combination, and there are no bad guns in this list whatsoever, some better than others, but still very respectable choices for guns. You can't go wrong with any of these, and the VKK Ryova and the MA16 Marksman have both been given critical multipliers of 1.25. This helps both of the guns massively, and honestly I think it has come to a point where these two guns can be comparable or even be slightly better than the AE-47M as the best automatic in the game. And I almost forgot 2 new codes, Nightmare for 75 tickets and something changelog for another 50 tickets. All these need to be in capital letters by the way in order for them to work. And yeah, what are my final thoughts? I think this was generally a good update. The introduction of exotic items, well balanced tweaks that I think are well deserved, and a nightmare mode which I think brought the game to the right direction. Hit most of the notes of what a good update should be. However, there are flaws. Of course, the implementation of nightmare mode wasn't that good in my opinion, and the Game Pass exclusive was decent but not a good deal. But overall, this was an update that pushed the game forward with less bugs and issues. I'm giving this a B. And yeah, if you want to see the previous update videos for the game, I recommend checking out the Wildfire update, which in my opinion was the best update that the game has ever received. And yeah, I'll see you there. And oh yeah, complete guide to Edward the Man-Eating Train coming soon. Right now it's at like 15 minutes. I think it's gonna be at like 21 or 22 minutes. So if you stayed for this long, then you probably know about that. And yeah, see you guys.